let's focus on this magazine where I picked up Magnolia Journal, featuring Joanna Gaines of Fixer Upper. Inside, I came across this Let It Rise dough, which is kind of exciting to know that you can have a dough and make it one day and refrigerate it overnight, and then proceed with your recipe, of which are shown here. And the one that I'm going to make today, it's called Cinnamon Nut Coffee Cake. Now, I've already made the dough. I made that last night and refrigerated it. Once it's taken out of the refrigerator, you punch it down just like this. Punch it down. And this has been
is it still
put in the bowl with oil to make sure that it doesn't get dried out. So once you punch it down, you give it 15 minutes to rest. Okay, after the bread has punched down and covered for 15 minutes, you now want to spread sprinkling of flour on the area where you're going to roll out the dough. And what I do is make sure that I double clean this area to make sure that it's perfectly clean before I start rolling out the dough.
All right.
Okay, so you just want to take the dough, and this recipe calls for making the dough 16 by inches. So in other words, what I have done is mark 16 inches square with some tape, so I know not to go beyond that as far as sticking to the recipe and the size. Important to rub your rolling pin with a little flour, and then you can start. Now this dough is excellent. I find it is so easy to work with. Make sure you keep the flour on the board so that it doesn't stick.
What makes it so easy to work with?
Look at it. I find that it's so smooth and everything. It just works out beautifully. I don't know if the secret is because it's been refrigerated overnight, but it just seems to roll to the size I need it.
And it stays there too.
And it stays there, and you just continue to work on it. Now, I have made this recipe for it before, so I'm very familiar with how this is going to turn out. And at first I thought it was going to be very difficult, but the more I did it, the more I realized that it was so easy to work with. And as you can see, it's just rolling so easy into this 60-inch square. Most times when I've had to do this previously without this particular recipe, I've had to flip the dough over many times, and I could never get it to the perfect size as required by the recipe. This one just, as you can see, it falls right into place.
So it still feels pretty cool to the touch.
Yeah. Here's my 16-inch line. So I am gradually getting there. And isn't this working out great? Have you ever seen this? work out so perfectly.
My dough usually creeps up on itself.
Yeah, the elasticity or something.
Mm-hmm. What kind of flour did you use?
Just regular unbleached all-purpose flour.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so to me that looks like it's basically 16-inch square. And now the recipe calls for 16 4-inch squares. So I made a little template, and I'm going to start with that. Cut this out, or outline it. And once I find that once I've outlined one, I can go ahead and outline the other 15. I prepared a 13 by 9-inch pan according to the recipe, foil overlapping the edges, and then sprayed with cooking spray. The next step is to prepare cottage cheese with brown sugar. So let me get that. Now I am making the cream cheese mixture, which is going to go in the center of each square. And what I have is 4 ounces of cream cheese, softened is preferred, and 6 tablespoons of brown sugar that you mix together really thoroughly. And then the next step would be to make sure you have all the goodness of the cream cheese together with the brown sugar. And I am going to use just a regular teaspoon and start with the process of putting 2 teaspoons in each center. I will do a few so that you can see how this is done. Okay, if you'll stop that now. I'm going to shorten this process to show you exactly what to do at this point. Once you fill the center of each dough square, you put water along the edges, and this is when you form the dough into a triangle. So you gently push it together and make sure that the dough sticks together, and there you have this beautiful triangle. And this is going to go right into the pan, and I will continue on with making the rest of the squares. Once you have the triangles in the pan, before you're going to let them rise for a half hour on their own. You're going to make a mixture of sugar, half a cup of white sugar, granulated sugar, a quarter cup of brown sugar, and a quarter cup of pecans, and a teaspoon of cinnamon. Mix that all together. Now I have to check the recipe because you have to have melted sugar, and I want to make sure at what point that goes over the triangles. That is drizzled over the triangles prior to this mixture going on top.
Oh, so melted butter.
This
goes
is
in
a
here.
quarter cup of melted butter, which I put in the microwave to melt. It's not quite there yet, so I'm gonna encourage it along so that I can drizzle it on top of all of the triangles. From there, the mixture of the brown sugar and the pecans go on next, and then cover it and let it rise for 30 minutes. After that, they're gonna go in the oven and get baked, and they're gonna be delicious.
It smells really good.
All right. Now now that the butter is melted, I'm going to drizzle each triangle with melted butter. And you just let it go on by a spoonful, or if you prefer to use a brush, that's fine too.
So the butter is kind of a thick consistency, like a paste.
It's just melted butter. I use unsalted butter.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a quarter of a cup. And you could spread it around so that it can absorb all of the brown sugar mixture that is going to go on next. I think that would be important to make sure that they get enough of that brown sugar on them, because that's what makes them good also. So what I'm going to do at this point is just use my fingers, because it's so much easier to spread the pecans and the brown sugar mixture on each triangle. And at this point, you're going to cover them and let them rest and rise for at least 30 minutes.
Cover it up.
That's it. I have to put them out in this area here. Where it's nice and warm.
Oh, a nice sunny area. Not too many dishes. Not too many dishes.
No, just a collection of mixing bowls and that sort of thing.
So what do you think is different about that dough? What do you think?
I think it's because it has all the ingredients like eggs and milk and the yeast, and you don't do a lot of, once it hits the bread dough in the mixer,
Mm-hmm.
once it starts gathering away from the sides, you stop it, and that's when you put it in the bowl for overnight. And make sure you cover it with oil so that it doesn't dry out.
So the dough itself is pretty easy to make. It's just the normal ingredients. the flour, the egg.
Flour, 2 eggs, flour. You start out with 2 cups and you mix that with the yeast first. And then you add the warm milk with the eggs and sugar. And once you mix that into the flour mixture, you mix it with the dough hook until it bunches up around the dough hook, and then you should be okay.
And then you just put it in the fridge with the oily bowl and let it go overnight.
Yeah, with plastic wrap on top.
Now you could probably just keep that in the freezer, do you think? Like an emergency dough for when people come over?
That would be interesting to try that. I don't know why you couldn't freeze it. I mean, you find frozen dough in the store, so
It's
I
like
guess at that point you could freeze it.
it's like whip up something for company coming.
Yeah.
Pretty easy, fresh and easy.
Something like that, and that would be really good.
What did you were telling me something about you changed your cupboards around.
Yes, I have to show you. I picked up these metal shelves
Ooh.
at Costco, and it eliminates a pile of dishes all on top of each other.
Oh my gosh, so you don't have
So-
to take off all the ones to get to the bottom one.
Right, you have a separation between all the dishes, so they're not going to have a tendency to get broken as you're putting things away, and it just makes it so much nicer.
Nice metal too.
Yes. And then in the other cupboard, I did the other. You get 4 in a package. So on this package, it's the same dimensions and everything, but I've allowed my glasses to be separated by this shelf, and my different little accessories on top of these glasses over here. It gives me more room.
It's like another shelf.
Yeah, and it's not so crowded looking. Even though it's crowded looking, it's not really crowded looking.
That's nice.
Yeah, I think they're really... Shake this out in the
gosh.
sink.
They are quite tall now.
They're beautiful. So you could do that, and we'll put those in the oven.
So how long do they go in the oven for?
25 minutes.
At 350.
Side by side, I guess.
Good luck, little babies. All right, so 20 minutes.
At this point, I'm making the brown butter, which is part of the frosting for our triangle.
Oh, you add it to this when it's all done. The frosting, yes. So you're just gonna melt like half a stick of butter?
No, it's a quarter of a stick.
A quarter stick.
Yeah. Cut it up so it doesn't take so long.
And when do you pour this on? After the buns or rolls have cooled off completely? Or
Yeah. Yes, or at least until they're not so hot when you take them out of the oven. You know, let them cool a little bit before you pour on the icing. Otherwise, the icing is just going to go right down into the pan, not stay on the roll. So you just watch this carefully because you don't want it to burn. That would not be good.
so do you put it on high heat or medium heat?
No, I would put it on lower heat and just stand over it.
You just stir it until it turns brown. So it's going to be bubbling and all.
Yeah. Eventually it'll get hot enough so that it's going to, even on the low heat, it'll get hot enough where it's going to bubble and turn brown.
I know your granddaughter made some cookies and she tried browning the butter before adding it to the recipe instead
Oh.
of just regular butter, and she said it made a big difference on the
Oh,
in the recipe.
yeah, the flavor of it
Mm-hmm.
is makes a difference, the flavor of that brown brown butter. No, I'm no expert, but I mean, I can only go by the one time I did this. And it really turned out well. So, as you can see, it's all totally melted now. Now we just have to wait for it to bubble and turn. Looks like it's separating somewhat because of the heat.
Mm-hmm. It's like separating out from like the water and the fats, I guess. Has it boiled yet?
No, it's getting to, because I can see the steam, the steam from the heat coming up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't dare not continue to stir it, because it's like anything else. It'll reach a certain point, and if you if you don't catch it, you know, you might not have it. You might lose it.
Might go beyond what.
Yeah, it goes beyond what you want it to be.
I do see some steam every once in a while coming off of it. So you've been stirring for like 5 minutes?
Yeah, something like that. The purpose is so that it doesn't burn. Butter and heat, I mean, after a while it will burn if you don't keep it moving.
Mm-hmm. It looks like it's just separating out. All right, so the butter got a little brown before
Yeah.
I got it, and you poured it in there, and now you're just gonna stir it.
You have to make sure it gets really smooth.
So I'm gonna add all these nuts that came off and put them on to the
See how it did?
Oh,
See, it's actually turning brown. Now at this point you can add a little bit more milk. And so, just to be as a precaution, I'm going to put a little bit in this cup and just add it gradually, because you don't want it to the point where it gets so liquidy that you need more sugar.
oh, that just ruins right off.
And see,
Oh, that
it's
really,
still not right, so
it looks a lot better.
yeah, it's getting there. You just have to do this a gradual process so that you reach that consistency without having it too watery. It's almost there. Smells delicious.
What does it smell like?
Brown sugar. Brown butter sugar. I think this might do it now. Oh, see?
Oh, right.
It's like in a stream.
Mm-hmm.
So,
All right, so these are kind of cooled off. You're still a little bit warm to the touch, but they're doing good. And we have wax paper underneath the cookie rack, just to save on cleaning up.
oh, that's better.
Ooh. So you were saying something about putting different layers of it on?
I like to put a little bit on and then go back and put more on. Can't have too much, as far as I'm concerned.
And you're just using a normal fork, just to drizzle.
Just enough to give it enough sweetness. Okay.
Oh, that looks so pretty.
Now you can put more nuts on there. My whole on there, since
You mean like the little bits from the pan,
Yeah.
like
if
this,
there's anything to fool with.
like this?
Oh. Oh, I want that one.
Yeah. Maybe I break it a little bit. Put some in there. All right, we went through the pans with all the little sugar pieces that had hardened up into candy. We added them to the top so that it becomes extra flavor. So it looks like that recipe made 14 the way we did it.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just adding the
I guess I wasn't too good on my squaring.
second coat. Was probably the ones I did.
I'm just going to add more of the brown sugar frosting now that the other is set.
And there's something about warming up butter and even the nuts that are on here. It just brings out another flavor. It's like a more intense flavor.
Especially when you get a bite with that cream cheese mixture inside.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it just looks so good, like oozing out.
Use all this down here on their marmalade one. That's one thing my mom always used to do. If there was any extra dough, she let us make little tarts with it.
Oh.
With jam in it or something like that.
Mm.
Okay.
Oh, they look so beautiful.
I'm gonna use all of this up. I'll do those dishes.